Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Sunday morning. I hope you're having a good one wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. As always, thank you very much for joining me. I really do appreciate it on a big day. Arsenal versus Chelsea. Well, sorry, Chelsea versus Arsenal kicking off a little bit later on today at Stamford Bridge. I will be jumping in my car and heading there very soon. I'm in the press box today, so I will try and record something after the game, do my sort of immediate match reaction and my player ratings from the press box at Stamford Bridge. But yeah, big game, no doubt about that. Chelsea with a chance to move in 3 points of Arsenal at the top of the table, or Arsenal with a chance to move back to 7 points clear of Manchester City, 9 points clear of Chelsea if they get the win today. So we'll talk about the game, obviously, in today's show, do predicted 11, a few comments and questions from you guys to get stuck into as well. And it is a big game, no doubt about it. They're all big games at the moment, considering what Arsenal are trying to go for at the moment. They've built up this nice little lead at the top of the Premier League. You want to try and protect that. You want to try and build on that. And they've had a brilliant week so far. The North London derby absolutely smashed Spurs. Bayern Munich, how are Arsenal going to cope against arguably the best team in Europe? They go and smash Bayern Munich as well. If they could get a win today at Stamford Bridge, it would just seal a remarkable 7 days for them. It's been a good week for Chelsea, though. They had a good win at Burnley last weekend, obviously dismantled Barcelona in midweek in the Champions League as well. So they've had a great week, same as Arsenal. It's a case of who performs better on the day. Both are going to be very confident, no doubt about that. I think for team selection-wise for Arsenal, it's going to be an interesting one. Mikel has a few decisions to make. He has quite a few options, though, to make those decisions with, which is quite a positive thing because of some of the injured players that are back. We have heard from Hand of Arsenal over on Twitter last night that Gabriel Jesus and Victor Gyokeres have travelled with the squad to the team hotel for today's game, which is going to be an interesting decision for the medical staff to take today, whether they're fit or not to be included in the squad. Just because they're with the squad doesn't mean they'll be involved in the actual match day squad, as we saw with Martin Odegaard, for example, last week against Spurs. He travelled with the team to the hotel, was part of the team, went to the ground on the coach with the team, but he wasn't in the squad. So it'll be a late decision on those two. I can't imagine, even if either of those two are in the squad, that they would start, considering how long Jesus has been out for, obviously, since January. And even Gyokeres now has been about a month. So I'd be very surprised if he goes straight back into the team. Gabriel Jesus has obviously been training an awful lot. We haven't seen Gyokeres in training, although someone did capture a sort of still at the back of someone's head yesterday in a video that Arsenal released that did look like Gyokeres. The Arsenal investigators on social media spotting that one. So you imagine if he's part of the squad, if he has travelled, then he must have been doing some sort of training for Arsenal to even consider him to be fit. But the way Arsenal have played, certainly up front, in the last couple of games with Mourinho playing as that false nine, and the joy that they've had with the runners getting beyond in Eze and Saka and Trossard when he's been fit, Martinelli, even Madueke, whoever it's going to be today, kind of feel like Arteta will stick with that. I'd be very surprised if he rips it all up and throws Gyokeres straight back into the starting 11 when he hasn't played for a month. Put it that way. So, I mean, those are the sort of, when you look at the key areas, I think what happens on the left-hand side is going to be really important. It's going to be an interesting choice if, as expected, Leandro Trossard doesn't make it. Now, it must be clear, of course, Mikel has not ruled Trossard out of today. He said that in the press conference. It would be a late decision. My hunch is that Leandro Trossard is not going to be involved in this game today. I'd be very surprised if he is. So someone's going to have to play on that left-hand side. And then it's, what do you do there? Do you play Madueke, who can play there, obviously, who replaced Trossard against Bayern Munich when he got the injury? Or do you play Gabriel Martinelli, who's more of a kind of natural left-sided player in this Arsenal setup? Madueke, obviously, a little bit more comfortable on the right in this team. Do you move Eze over to left and bring Martin Odegaard into the middle? I think if Odegaard was a little bit more up to speed, I think that would probably be what Mikel would go for today. But I just wonder that Odegaard won't have played enough football for Arteta to throw him straight in to a big game like this. Now, I say this knowing full well that last season, in this exact game, Martin Odegaard had been out for a long time. And then he comes straight back in from the start and basically played the entire 90 minutes at Stamford Bridge. So that's the one thing in the back of my mind, thinking, well, you never know. You never know. Mikel has spoken before about Odegaard's ability just to play as soon as he gets back fit. But I would be surprised in that one. I feel like it would be Madueke. on the left-hand side. That's the most likely options for me. And then you leave Martinelli on the bench and you leave Eze, who's been playing so well in that number 10 role of late and scoring goals and is going to be fully confident. You leave him in that position and Odegaard will be on the bench. And then you also look at what's going to happen at centre-back against Spurs. Hincapié came in to replace Gabriel, played very, very well. But then Arteta left him out and brought in Mosquera against Bayern Munich. He said afterwards that Hincapié was a little bit tired after the Spurs game. He'd done all the international duty with Ecuador, had flown a lot. I think Hincapié comes back in and you have the left-sided, right-sided centre-backs playing next to each other. I'd be surprised if it's Mosquera. I wouldn't be disappointed if it's Mosquera. I'd be fine with it. I think he'd do very well. He's brilliant against Bayern Munich, I thought. But I think Hincapié will probably come back in for this game. So those are the decisions, probably the key ones. The rest of the team, I think, picks itself unless something's happened to a player that we don't know about that's been kept under wraps. I think the rest of the decisions pick themselves. It'll be interesting to see what Chelsea do for this game. Of course, Cole Palmer is fit. Enzo Maresca saying he is fit to start as well, not just feature, but to start. Whether he does, I think it's probably unlikely given how long he has been out. But, just having him on the bench is going to be a big, big boost for Chelsea, for the fans, for the stadium, everything like that. If they bring him on, it's going to lift the entire place. You imagine Esteval is certainly going to be starting on the right-hand side, given the form that he's been in of late. João Pedro is rested midweek against Barcelona. Does he come back in and play up front, or does he play Pedro Neto as a kind of false nine against those choices for Enzo Maresca to take? I just think it's going to be all about who performs on the day, really. You've got two very, very good teams, really sort of evenly matched around the pitch. I think midfield is going to be absolutely crucial. We've had lots of talk, the whole build up to it, of Caicedo versus Declan Rice. There's been some really good pieces. I retweeted Sam Dean's piece in the Telegraph today, which is a really interesting piece on some of the background behind the summer of 2003 or the year of 2023, and how if things had gone differently, Caicedo could have easily been an Arsenal player, and how it all sort of intertwined with Declan Rice as well. Some interesting stuff. And there's been lots of talk about who's a better midfielder. Everyone's going to have an opinion on that. If you're Arsenal, you're going to say Rice. If you're Chelsea, you're going to say Caicedo. I think the comparison, as Declan Rice said in midweek, is a little bit unfair, to be honest, because they're not the same sort of player. You've got one real sort of holding player in Caicedo, and then you've got a more attacking player in Declan Rice. And when you look at their numbers, Caicedo, sort of his numbers dominate when it comes to defensive actions. When you look to attacking actions, Declan Rice's numbers dominate. And so you are comparing two very, very different players, which doesn't really make sense. It's almost like you should be comparing Enzo Fernandez and Declan Rice, given the sort of positions that they're playing in. But that midfield is going to be absolutely crucial. Who can come out on top? And I think with Declan Rice and Caicedo as well, because they're such competitors and top quality, they're going to be well aware of all the comparisons. They're going to know the cameras are going to be on them today. And even though they've both kind of said we play in different positions, I think they're both going to want to have their say today and make it very, very clear that I'm the dominant figure in the midfield in these two teams. So I think you're going to see both of those really, really up for it today. And whoever maybe can sort of get control of the game for their team will lead to their team having the better say today. Arsenal have got a very good record at Stamford Bridge. Very good record. And fingers crossed that can continue today. Right, I'm going to go through my predicted 11. Well, I would, but I didn't bring it up. There it is. I don't know what that blank screen was. Apologies for that. So this is my predicted 11 for today. So I've gone David Raya in goal. I think that's fairly, very obvious. It's not going to be Kepa for this one, going back to his former club. So David Raya in goal. Then Timber, Saliba. As you can see, I've gone Hincapié as the left-sided centre-back rather than Mosquera and Calafiori. I'd just be surprised if Arteta doesn't go with Hincapié for this game. And then I've gone Zubimendi and Rice, obviously, as a midfield pair. I can't see anything other than that. Saka on the right, Eze as the sort of 10, Madueke on the left, and Marino up top. So that's what I think Mikel would do. I think that is probably what I would go for as well today, given the options. I know there would be a temptation if Gyokeres is fit, but I just feel like after 4 weeks of not playing and the fact that Marino has just suddenly found this form in the last couple of games, and Arsenal have found this form and a way of playing with Marino as the false nine that's really benefiting the players behind them, I just feel like Marino would be the better option for me today, while Gyokeres sort of gets his fitness back, even if he does get the nod from Arteta today to be part of the squad. So there's my predicted 11. Raya, Timber, Saliba, Hincapié, Calafiori, Zubimendi, Rice, Saka, Eze, Madueke, and Marino. Right, it was an interesting day of football yesterday. Manchester City, honestly, that was so frustrating from an Arsenal point of view. Frustrating from me in terms of a fantasy Premier League point of view as well. I triple captained Haaland and I transferred in Nico O'Reilly and Jeremy Doku. Haaland blanks. Doku does absolutely nothing. And O'Reilly, although he got an assist, concedes 2 goals. Doesn't get a clean sheet as well. So that was bad enough. It was fine when it was 2-2. I was thinking I didn't care. Obviously, Man City dropping points was far more important than my FPL team. But then the fact that City went on and nicked it at the end with a last-minute goal and none of my players got any points, it just made it doubly frustrating. It's just a nightmare. Nightmare at the Etihad yesterday. I mean, it's a result that they should have picked up. You know, there's no way they should be dropping points at home to Leeds United. And I still look at that result. Although City are really happy they got the win, I still look at that result and the fact they could throw away a 2-goal lead at home to Leeds. It's just more sort of signs to me as why I think Man City are clearly defensively have got some real issues, and whether they can sort of maintain pace at the top of the Premier League with Arsenal. If they continue to ship that amount of goals and defend like that, then I just struggle to see it. Tottenham, the comedy show continues. At Tottenham, those first 10 minutes or so were, quite frankly, hilarious as they lose again at home. Newcastle, where did that come from? Suddenly finding a way to win away from home in the Premier League, 4-1. Sunderland doing it again, coming back from 2 goals down to win 3-2. And Brentford, I think I'm going to have to get Thiago in my fantasy team. I think I've not done it, but he just scores every single game. Although saying that, they're playing Arsenal in midweek, so maybe I won't do it before then. But those were yesterday's Premier League results. Got lots and lots of games to go today as well. But certainly from an Arsenal point of view, the Man City one was clearly the most important one. They've now moved to win 4 points of Arsenal going in to today's game. Right, a few comments and questions now before we wrap this one up for today. Soy Sauce Girl says, did you see that Chelsea have moved its advertising boards to stop Arsenal taking long throws? The Sunderland mind games are probably going to spread throughout the Premier League to take Arsenal on. Do you think it makes a big difference to practicalities of Arsenal's game, or is it just psychological? I'm not sure this is true yet. By the way, I saw a picture doing the rounds and on social media and saying, oh, Chelsea have moved the boards forward. But that picture didn't sort of work, I didn't think, looking at it, because I swear it looked like it was the summer or something, and it didn't look like it was something they were doing right now for the Arsenal game. It wouldn't surprise me if that was just some sort of social media sort of hoax that has spread around social media, and people are sort of sharing it far and wide. So I'll wait and see. When I get to Stamford Bridge today, I'll get there early doors. I'll be able to see if they have indeed done that. To be honest, it just doesn't make any sense to me for a start, because Arsenal are rubbish at long throws. It doesn't, you know, I don't see where this comes from. Arsenal being a threat at long throws. We're awful at them. I wish we didn't take them. Like Rice and Calafiori throw. I mean, they can't do long throws. Arsenal haven't scored a goal from a long throw this season, so I just don't see why teams are trying to stop Arsenal taking long throws. Sunderland did it, and I don't see why Chelsea would be doing it either. I mean, it's not something that Arsenal are a threat from. I just think it's really weird. To me, it just seems like another example of Arsenal getting in teams' heads at the moment, if that's what clubs are doing. Because it's not an issue. Corners, maybe if you're doing something to stop them taking a corner, then that would make more sense. But long throws just doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't think it will make a big difference to the practicalities of Arsenal's game, Soy Sauce Girl, because I just don't think Arsenal are very good at them in the first place, I have to say. Right, moving on to a few more questions and comments now. Pep in Rome says, hey, Charlie, you're looking well. I'm glad I'm looking well, because I'm still not feeling very well. I have to say, my head is throbbing. My voice sounds awful in my head because my ears are all blocked up from this cold I've got. So I don't know. You say I'm looking well. It doesn't feel like it, I have to say, at the moment. You say, I get why they're playing Saka on the right, especially since we've been without a proper number 9. It lets him cut inside onto his strong left foot, score goals, so fair enough. He does know how to play on the left, though, and I personally love seeing Madueke on the right with Saka on the left, but only when Gyokeres is fully firing. I think part of Gyokeres' problem so far is not been getting service, because the team's so used to playing about real target man. I'll put Eze just behind him centrally with Zubi and Rice. What do you think about Saka on the left? Thanks, you're the best Arsenal news channel. Thank you very much. And then Dwayne also says he'd play Saka on the left and Madueke on the right and bring Martinelli in the second half. Look, I mean, Saka can play on the left. Obviously, of course he can. He came through on the left at Arsenal, and he's left-footed. I prefer him on the right, though. I don't really want to move Saka around. I'd much rather keep Saka where he's strongest and where he wants to play. I just think you're sort of hurting yourself if you're moving Saka over on the left-hand side. You sort of you're losing your left-hand side through an injury, and then suddenly you're weakening your right-hand side because you're moving Saka over to cover for the left-hand side. So it's not one that I would like. I like the fact they're doing it more and more during the games. They're swapping over. We're seeing that a lot this season, and I'm really enjoying that. And that you'll see Saka go over there for 5-10 minutes, make an impact, and then they'll switch back again. I think that's something Arsenal should have done a long time ago. So that's good. But from a sort of permanent point of view, no, not for me. I'd keep him keep him on the right. Asfar says most difficult game, so I would take a draw any day. Look, draw wouldn't be a terrible result, but I absolutely obviously want to win this game. Finally, just a predicted lineup here from PG says Raya, Timber, Saliba, Hincapié, Calafiori, Zubimendi, Rice, Eza, Saka, Madueke, Marino. I think that's the exact lineup that I have predicted as well. We won't have to wait too much longer now to find out if those predicted lineups are correct or not. Right, that is it from me this morning, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll be back after the full-time whistle at Stamford Bridge, where I'll be heading to very, very soon. Enjoy the game. If you're going, be loud in that away end. The boys are going to need it if you're watching it around the world. Hope you enjoy. And I'll be back with my immediate match reaction and player ratings after the full-time whistle. Take it easy, everyone. Bye-bye.